Mhm. Okay, I think we're live. Yep. Okay, welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, the show about good friends hanging out, talking about things we all love. Um, I have two guests today. Hope Doe, is that how you say your last name? I think I just butchered your
Yes.
last name. And
Yep.
Reiko, I'm going to butcher your last name, so why don't you introduce yourself?
Reiko Murakami.
Reiko Murakami. And then Andrew Sides, my
Hi.
co-host, who's been I'm glad he's helping me today because it's been a day. How you guys all doing today?
Doing good.
I'm gonna let
Just woke up.
Andrew, I'm gonna let you feel this for a second, okay? So I can test our audio.
Sure thing. So how about, I guess, like a background
Yes.
from both of you, just to kind of introduce yourselves, give us like a brief overview of what you do, where you come from, all that shebang. Reiko, do you want to start or Hope?
Sure, I can
Whoever's
start.
more comfortable. Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So how about,
Yeah,
I guess, like a
so
background from both of you, just to
I have been doing a lot of video game stuff. My background is a video game artist. That's how I started my career. So I mainly work in digital media for my client work. I do comic covers and book covers, and in this recent couple of years, I've been doing traditional graphite drawings and doing some more gallery work. And I post most of the graphite stuff on my Instagram, so that's probably like a lot of you guys have seen. And that's, yeah, I have a two sides, digital stuff and graphite, so that's pretty much
Huh.
me.
cool. And then Hope, do you want to give us a little bit of background?
Hi, my name is Hope. I live in Japan and I moved here about 13 years ago. I've been a fine artist for working in galleries for about 7 years, I think. Mostly in Japan, but this year I've started to branch out to America galleries. It's mostly fine works, mostly fantastical, and nature like art, animals, people, that kind of thing.
Is there a substantial market within Japan for excuse me, for like imaginative realism stuff, like fantastic? Excuse me, I have like a bit of phlegm.
It's okay.
Yeah, is there actually a decent market in Japan for fantastical, like imaginative realism kind of stuff, or would you say it's maybe about the same as like how American galleries are, where it's not a huge focus, but there is a core niche?
Depends what it is. It really depends. If it's light and floofy and kind of have a happy like not happy, but if it's lighthearted, yeah, there is a market. If it's more anime and manga type style, then there's a huge market for that.
So they don't want any like dark, like I guess dark fantasy. Is that what they would call that? Like there's a market
niche for it.
Okay.
There is a niche for it, but it's very small. So if people find you, if you find that niche or you find the people who like that stuff, they are go all in for it. But it's hard to find.
Is there like a I'm trying to think of how to put it, like here in America, there people can kind of categorize stuff as either highbrow or lowbrow art. Is there a similar sort of thing in Japan, or is it kind of more intermixed?
I don't think so.
Would you say?
Well, no, I think there is somewhat. There is Gendai art, which is modern art, and there is normal art, which is everything else.
And I guess Gendai is probably the equivalent of like what we consider like highbrow art, like Rothko or something. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
That's still there's still a pretty big market for that, and that sells pretty well.
Right.
In the art fairs and stuff like that.
And
then the other art, it's more, if it's good for like the normal type of people, flowers is probably sell really good, and traditional Japanese art like Nihonga is still pretty popular. But yeah, when it comes to illustration stuff that sells, it's usually in the manga and anime style that
Interesting.
goes.
I have
And
a
then-
question.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no,
Go
go
for it.
on.
I hope.
please.
So, like, did you go to any like art educational, programs or college or in Japan, or how did
No.
you start a career in Japan?
That is like a series of fortunate events, I guess you could say. I work at this is a huge series. So I work as a English teacher. I still work as an English teacher at a private school in Japan. And my first school that I worked with the art teacher. I became friends with the art teacher really quick, and I helped her out with the art club and stuff like that. And with the art club, they did this thing with all the prefecture art clubs, where they will go somewhere and do plein air painting and get together and do exhibitions with the students. And then the teachers also did exhibitions with themselves as well. And I got invited to one of those exhibitions. So I did that. And somebody who knew one of the teachers came, and he liked my work, and we became friends. And then this friend knows a lot of artists around Japan. And he had a party inviting all the artists together. And there I met a lot of different artists from around my area. And then I got to know an illustrator, a really well-known illustrator, and he had an exhibition at a gallery, and I went to that. And I became friends with him and went to his exhibition, where I carry around a sketchbook with me, so I always draw my sketchbook at parties and stuff like that. So I had that, and this illustrator introduced me to the gallery, and it's like, oh, this girl's sketchbook is really cool, and that gallery invited me to do an exhibition.
That's cool.
And that's how it started.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is a series of very weird, fortunate circumstances. Good luck.
So you initially moved to Japan to teach.
Yeah.
And then you
I moved
now
to
you're just there.
Japan to teach.
And you do both now,
And
though,
I did-
right? You do teach and you do art, so
Yeah.
that's cool.
I didn't do art for a very long time, for a couple of years. So, and then I just decided that I really needed to do art and get to know other artists. So I did a lot of other things before that, but it didn't lead to anywhere until I actually met other artists who were working in Japan. So
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting. Reiko, how you said you started to become more gallery, or you started to do more gallery work, or have you been doing gallery work for a few years now?
I started doing traditional work more seriously back in 2018 or so, 17 or 18 or so.
Okay.
And then, I've been signing up for online gallery shows and I show stuff at the cons, and so it's been kind of slowly emerging, just like a sort of like a second career for me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw you at Dragon Con, right, in 2019?
Yeah.
2019, right?
Yeah, it's right
2018.
before COVID, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh
And I
my
was at the
goodness.
Dragon Con too. Dragon Con, Gen Con. That was a pretty crazy year for me. Yeah.
How have you been finding the I guess how have you been finding the gallery work compared to commercial work in terms of I guess pacing and that kind of thing? Do you find it more relaxing than your regular commercial work you're doing, or do you feel like it's about the same? I've heard various things from different artists about it. Some people said it's about the same as commercial work. It's just different client.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I guess gallery work, if I get some if I'm included in show and I have to make a piece for the show, I can't help but to start thinking about, what's appropriate and like what fulfills the market and that kind of stuff, which is kind of dangerous for doing gallery work, I heard from my mentors, because you want to be
Yeah.
always true to yourself and your what do you call it, voice should come first than those things.
Like, don't
But
gear it specifically for the gallery.
yeah, like if you start
Yeah.
thinking about what sells and like what I should do because this is the market and that kind of stuff a little too much, it becomes more like a commercial work.
Sure.
And you might be able to find the right answer. And if you're kind of artist who is extremely successful doing those kind of thing, then that's probably fine. But I feel like my personal work's strength is more about, when I don't really care about those things, they become very honest with me.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of keep the distance, of this like commercial brain side to more like authentic, like raw.
And there's some artists that are totally cool with that. Like I'm sure no one would argue Thomas Kincaid did not approach things with that mindset. But I also think of like this gallery landscape painter that I know of, Stapleton Kearns. I remember he told this one story about how he knew an artist that was well known for doing a series of duck paintings. Like that's more or less what his entirety of gallery work was. And one day the guy just, I guess what he was talking to Stapleton and just they're just shooting the shit. And he just goes, I got to tell you something. Like I really fucking hate these ducks. I've been doing these things for like 10 years and I hate doing them. And all it was is he was chasing a trend like when it first started. And he happened to hit it at the right point that it got really big. And he, at a certain point, just felt pigeonholed where he's like, I really can't get out of this. I kind of have to just keep doing ducks, whether I like them or not. He's like, I like painting barns, or I'd rather be doing landscapes or something.
But the ducks are making him money.
I think a lot of Japanese artists get stuck to that here as well.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of artists they stick to just one thing that they've become that's able to sell a lot, because it's really hard to sell artwork here. There's not much. Japanese people love art. They will go to a lot of art exhibits. Almost everybody goes to art exhibits. We get really, really good art exhibits in Japan because Japanese people like to go see art. They see it, but buy it, it's a different thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So I grew up in Japan up until I was 15. I'm originally from Japan, just in case if you didn't notice. But and my experience being in the culture is like when things hit TV media especially, and if the media decides that it's cool, for example, Monet is coming to Tokyo and everybody has to go there. Like literally everybody has to go there. I had some experiences like that with my family. It's like, Goho Van Gogh exhibition in Ueno, like we gotta go. We just gotta watch it,
Japan
serious
loves
fear
art.
missing out kind of thing.
Japan loves art so much that a few years ago, they convinced the I don't know who they did, but this was kind of controversy. They brought Alphonse Mucha's epic Slav epics.
The Slav epics, really?
Those are huge, man.
Yeah, those are like 15 to 20 feet tall, aren't they?
They're huge. They're mass walls.
That exhibition, those paintings do not travel. They do not travel, but Japan somehow got an exhibition for it. And I was actually in Tokyo because I didn't know about the exhibition. And I was in Tokyo and I heard, I saw these posters everywhere. I was like, oh, cool. I want to go see that. And I was in Tokyo while doing that for another exhibition for an art fair. And I went and it was crazy how many people were there. It was packed. Like people were shoulder to shoulder, and I had to wait 2 or 3 hours in line to get in, and people were all packed in because it was it was a huge exhibition. It was a huge deal. to have those paintings being shown in Tokyo.
I would love to see those live. That would be amazing.
That's
Oh my god,
astounding.
it was amazing. It was life changing, or it was just.
Wow.
I knew about the Slav epic, but I didn't realize how big they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever seen photos of them, and it's like, wow, I would really love to see those in person, just because they really do look astounding.
Just looking at one of them is like, I would be like, I don't want to paint this. Like, it's so big.
It was beautiful. They even have the unfinished paintings there as well.
Oh, that's
cool.
really cool.
It was
Yeah.
incredible. But anyway, Japanese people love to get art, and
They just don't want to spend the money. I wonder if they're not spending the money because they're just saving their money, right? Like,
no, it's not that. They don't have any place to put it.
Oh, that makes sense too.
I was gonna say that. Like,
houses here are smaller, and even if they're smaller, they don't like putting holes in walls. They like
you got to 3M strip everything, man.
Yeah,
that's the key.
So
something I was curious about. So, Hope, did you say that you were outside of Osaka, or did I hear that wrong before we went live?
I'm not in Osaka. Yeah.
Oh,
Osaka,
okay.
Japan. Osaka is near Mie. It's close to Mie, but no, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But we have the Osaka dialect.
Oh,
When
gotcha.
I speak Kansai then.
oh, that's really cool.
So
My students comment on it all the time. I don't know. How else am I speaking?
It's something I'm
Kansai
curious.
accent's so cool. I grew up in Tokyo area, which is like a eastern side of Japan. So I think my accents are more like either generic or Tokyo, Chiba.
Okay. Actually, this is actually a really good question then, because you guys are, I think, trying to think like in terms of what I remember of Japan's, I think you guys are probably distanced well enough apart that this question could probably work. Do you think that there's enough of a cultural difference in terms of how different cities consume art within Japan, or is it kind of a homogenous, like, oh, they all, like you mentioned that a really good everyone loves to go see shows? Is that kind of across the board for the whole nation? Do you think that's more apparent, less apparent in certain cities or certain areas, certain prefectures?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure.
There's some cities that claim, this is the city or prefecture appreciating art, and they're famous for it. Like Kyoto, for example, they're all about art.
Yeah, right.
And I just my guess is that Tokyo is probably really big in the market too, just because there's so many people and it's the cultural center. I don't know about Kansai area at all, and this is like all wild guess because I haven't been living in Japan for a really, really long time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think Hope knows better than me, to be honest.
I've done a lot of art fairs in different places, and I do think that there is a certain aesthetic that people like more in certain areas than others. Like, I think Tokyo is more on the modern art thing, because that's where usually those things sell very well. And like, I went to Fukuoka. So Fukuoka has this really relaxed feeling of art. They pretty much like everything. Kyoto is more of the traditional Japanese art area, but they also like a lot of the illustrative style as well. Osaka is very like pop, like illustrative style, like a lot of more manga and stuff like that kind of thing. So there are places that have these certain more aesthetics than others, but I think all around people just really like art. Like, my prefecture is in the middle of it's pretty much a countryside prefecture. It's a small prefecture. Right. It's not a small prefecture, but it's just more like
rural
versus it's not
lots of mountains.
It's a lots of mountains, and there's a lot in the nature side.
Isn't Iga over there? Like, you guys have ninjas, though, right? Like the origin of the ninja place.
My first year here, I lived in Iga.
Oh, cool.
So
And
that's
then
the
I
origin of ninjas. That's good to know.
Yeah, it's like a Iga clan.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I help translate all the translate all the English explanations in the Ninja Museum. I worked with that. That's like a proud thing that I can say.
That's cool, man.
That's so cool. I've
Because
never visited Iga.
There is no English with that museum for years, and there's so many people who come to that, foreigners who come to the Ninja Museum, and they're like, "Oh, we have to do something." So they hired a Japanese person to help translate it, and she hired me to help translate with her.
Oh wow!
It was a collaboration kind of thing, so
Yeah.
it was fun. But she told all these crazy emails that she gets, that the museum gets from people. Like there is one person who like claimed like, my past life was a ninja. You have to buy a plane ticket so I can study in the ninja arts at the in Iga. I'm like,
wait,
Is this like an international person or from Japan? Where was this person from?
Probably Kansas.
America. It wasn't America. I think it was
Really?
Latin America or Brazil or somewhere. Somewhere around there. But it was crazy. I was like, oh my god.
I'm still wrapping my head around. Did they tell the museum that the museum has to buy a plane ticket for them?
Correct.
Because they were misinformed about this. There is a ninja dojo. Actually, Greg Manchester studied under. Yeah, he studied in Iga.
He studied to be a ninja or an artist.
So familiar. All of a sudden, somebody told me about that.
I was gonna say,
last IMC, he's like, yeah, I studied ninja arts in Iga. I was like, oh my god, I lived in Iga.
That's kind of cool.
I think Manchester doesn't he practice Aikido, if I'm right, or I can't remember if he practices that or something else. Off the top of my head,
I don't remember. I didn't realize he studied any martial arts. So
I remember he made like one offhand comment
really
about
big
it in a blog, and
I wouldn't have guessed that.
He talked about it a lot with me.
That's cool, man.
I don't think what might have been Aikido. I can't remember, but I remember he said he studied in.
I wonder if that's why he's so like chill. Like every time I've had a conversation with Manches, it's just been like very like you don't feel any stress in that conversation.
He's like a Jedi Knight.
Yeah, he's like a Jedi Knight. That's a good way to say it. He's like totally easy to speak to. Like I met him at Boscone. Same year I met you, Reiko, when I was out there with Eli. Remember?
Yeah.
And him and Irene were like outside in the lobby having drinks, and they were just like, "Sit down." And I was just like, "You don't even know me, you know?" And they're like, "We know who you are." It's just like mind blown. But I was like, I had drinks with them, and the next morning they were getting coffee, and I had conversations with them, but it felt like they made you feel like just totally relaxed the whole time. But in my head, I was like at an 11, right? Because I was just like, it's Irene and Greg, you know?
Yeah.
But to them, they're just like, relax, bro, you know? So
yeah, it was such a pleasure to meet Greg. I didn't expect his personality to be so welcoming.
Yeah, that's a good way to say welcoming. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
I did not bother him for a portfolio review though, because I was too like shook.
This man doesn't want to give me I'd probably be the same way.
Yeah, well, he was having his morning coffee. I met him the first time while I was drinking is late. You know, we're all hanging out drinking. I didn't want to be like, can I get her? So here's the thing. I learned that lesson the hard way from when I was at San Diego. I had Todd Lockwood give me a portfolio review and over drinks, and it's the most bananas portfolio review I've ever gotten. It was amazing, but it was also like my stress level was really high because he just lays it all out for you, right? And he just says it like it is, and I loved it. Later, I laughed about it, but that moment, my heart rate was so high because he was just like, "This piece is done," and I was like, "I think I'm gonna rework this thing." He's like, "It's fucking done." And then he turned the page as if like I should never look at it again, and I was like, "Cool." And then he ordered a round of drinks, even though I didn't want vodka. He was like, "Vodka soda is all around." I was like, "But I don't really want vodka." He's like, "Vodka soda is all around," you know. I guess I'm drinking vodka.
Wasn't that didn't he like apologize to you the next day or something for that portfolio review? I can't remember.
No,
that story.
You know, the artist that apologized to me for a review was I'm gonna put him on the spot. Goni Montez, who
that's right.
He's been nothing but. I actually had a conversation with this dude last week, which is kind of funny you brought it up because he gave me one of my first time at a LuxCon I asked Goni for an portfolio review because I loved his. He's also a graphic designer turned illustrator like myself. So I was like, he can relate to me and see where I'm coming from, right? And he was kind of half in the bag. So his review was it was really harsh, but in a nice way. Like, here's what you need to fix with your style. Like, thinking back on it, I fixed a lot because 2 weeks later, him and I were sitting down on a computer and he was showing me all the things I was doing, quote unquote, wrong, and then he helped me adjust. And that the first piece that came from his tutoring me was my Night of Jupiter. Yeah, he gave me a review that he felt really. I didn't feel bad at all at that moment because I was just so excited to get a review. But the next day he felt really bad and apologized to me and was like, "Let's sit down and go try again," But he was like, "I was really drunk." I'm like, "We were all drunk. It's a LuxCon, like." So.
You're going to LuxCon this year, right?
I am. I have a table in the showcase. I was trying to. I'm trying to paint some of my stuff traditionally. I picked up some acrylic gouache and some poster paint. Justin Donaldson's been really nice about giving me a lot of advice on trying some stuff out. I don't know if I'm going to get it done or not because I have another show. I just came off of Dragon Con, Gen Con at Origins next week.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you about Gen Con and all that stuff.
So Dragon Con was super busy.
I talked to Ashley a little bit about Dragon Con, I guess. Yeah. How was it this year?
It was busy. I mean, they said they kept everybody at 60%. It was super busy, and it felt very safe for the most part. They had passed a mandatory map. You have to have a mask on. You have to have either a vaccination or show proof of a negative COVID test. If you didn't show those last two, they would not let you into the show. And they had stations set up. So if you're like, I didn't get a test, they'd be like, just go over there and they'll do a rapid test.
Oh, cool.
So it felt a little safer. Gen Con was last week and it's in Indiana. The policies there are a little different. Masks were mandatory, which I felt, thank God. Because I would have felt really shook if I saw people walk around with no mask. There were like one or two morons walking around with no masks on, but for the most part, everybody kept their masks on. They had no policy about the negative test or the vaccine, so couldn't fight it. They said it was too late, and then Origins is next week, and they have the same thing. You have to have masks on all the time. So, I'm rolling the dice. I know by going to these shows back to back to back, but I've been I stick with the same group when I'm there. As far as like dinners and stuff go, I don't do what I normally would do is like, let's plan a dinner with you and let's plan a dinner with you and let's plan a dinner with you. I'm just like this cluster of friends each night. So like at Dragon Con, I was with the Argyles and Jason Engel and stuff most of the nights, and my assistants who work my booth. And at Gen Con, I stuck with my roommates mainly, and then the Argyles and Jason again because I know they're safe. They're safe. They're all vaccinated and they're kind of operating on the same level as me. I got a kid at home, so I don't want to bring anything back home to her. So I took 4 tests before, the day.
Oh my God!
After Gen Con, we had a scare in our family with a potential COVID outbreak from this. I'm not gonna get into it with this dumb wedding, but basically, so my wife and I were walking around with masks on the whole time while she was waiting for her PCR test to come back, and I ran the rapid test to make sure I was safe too. And now I got to go back into the Lions Den essentially next week. But the LuxCon, they said everyone at that show has to be
has to show. Yeah, I was gonna say show proof, right?
Yeah, a lot of people were pissed about this. I heard. But you know what?
Really?
Don't come to the show.
Well, is that more from the artist side or more from the?
I think it's a collector.
I imagine the artists are mostly going to be okay with that, right?
Yeah, I think the artists were like, "Yeah, that's fine. We're all vaccinated. That's cool." But I think there were some. I don't know if it was collectors or people that just come to LuxCon, but I heard that some people were like, "Oh, you guys are stupid for doing this or whatever," and Patrick basically was like, "Them's the rules," But
it's the same way where a store could say, if you don't have a shirt, you can't come in, kind of thing.
I mean, there's people out here, like Illinois just passed, Chicago and Illinois has a law now that says you have to wear your mask indoors all the time, regardless of your status. And the people that were, up until, I would say about 3 weeks ago, people were like, the law was masks on, no masks if you're vaccinated. So then all these people walking around saying they were vaccinated, and
Right.
you just by looking at them, you'd be like, I don't trust you, you know. But so now Illinois has said you have to have masks on, and people are pissed. But I'm like, you know what? I don't care if you're mad. I'd rather be
I mean,
safe.
it's better. Like right now, Florida is somehow going backwards. I saw
You
an
guys are
article
nuts over there,
earlier.
man.
Oh my God! I saw an article earlier that one of the lawmakers actually looking to see about. He's like, well, what about other vaccines though? Do we need those?
Yeah,
It's like,
you
no,
dumbass.
don't. You're going the wrong way. Go the other way.
Yeah, he's like, do we need the flu vaccine? Do we need this? It's like, are you trying to bring smallpox back? Is that your plan of action? What are you trying to do? Like,
I am not sure, to be
I
honest.
mean, I feel bad for you
Crazy.
that you live there. I feel bad for
certainly
anyone
don't
who's
want to have a polio back.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like they're trying to like reverse time. I think that guy. I saw some of that stuff that dude was saying. I think in his head he thinks if I say these wild ass things, more people will listen to me, and it's just like,
Yeah, that sounds
relax.
about right for Florida.
What's it like, Hope, in Japan with the pandemic stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how's vaccination going over there?
People are hesitant to be vaccinated,
Sure.
but it's not a political thing, and it's not.
Right.
It's not. There are people who believe those kind of conspiracies, but it's a very tiny amount of people. And so, but people just are not trusting the like doctors and the vaccine stuff like that. Not in a political or conspiracy way. They just
more from like they're
they
concerned
just-
about how fast it was developed and stuff, or
some of that, and some are just don't. They think that doctors prescribe it because they get a
Kickbacks.
certain amount of money about it,
Yeah.
and some
Which is so
rich,
dumb
and so
because they don't get shit from
they're
it.
trying
Right?
to push it. People get vaccinated so they can make money, and some of that as well. But it's after the Delta wave has come and it's like hit us hard.
Yeah.
There are more people who are being vaccinated, but there's some controversy of vaccinated people with vaccinated passports might get special things. Like they're thinking about like people who are vaccinated will get a percentage off if they of this hotel or something if they travel.
Yeah, I
And
mean
stuff like that.
That stuff like that's not a bad idea. It's a good way to just because people should get
In
vaccinated.
Japan, they feel that might just cause kind of a segregation issue.
Oh boy, yeah.
right, like have
if
and have
people
not.
who are generally concerned about their health with the vaccination, like one of my friends isn't going to get vaccinated because he's allergic to something I can't remember, and so he's worried about what the vaccine might do to him. And, it's people like that who might not can like physically get the vaccine, or just really it's just not fair. And
I feel that, yeah.
There's better ways to encourage it than something like that, I feel like.
Yeah. And so my school is really good about just making sure that no one knows who gets vaccinated and who's not, to hopefully
avoid that, yeah.
To avoid getting bullied and stuff like that.
Because there was so the one thing I did, there was I'm not gonna name names, but at Gen Con there was a couple people I found out were not vaccinated, and that kind of, I'll be honest, that raised my level of stress about hanging out with those individuals, because I was just like, I like them, and I was just like, you're cool, you're nice people, but you might have a reason for that, right? It might be a medical reason, it could be anything. So I was just like, I'm just gonna, again, because I have a kid at home, right?
Not, yeah.
So I was just like,
kind of a concern.
Yeah.
About it. Like I was pretty concerned about it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Japan also got most of the vaccines, Moderna vaccine, were made in Spain or Mexico. I can't remember. I think it's Spain. And they put really weird things into the they put non-vaccine things into the vaccines, and it caused a couple of problems.
That came to Japan?
Yeah, that came to Japan. There was weird materials in it.
I heard about the metal.
Yeah, it was metal.
Yeah, some people got some situations of medical
Oh wow.
you know,
Yeah.
I didn't hear about
consequences or
that.
something like that.
Yeah, and so stuff like that, if stuff like that happens, then you
Sure.
know a lot of Japanese people comes concerned about stuff
Mhm.
not being in it, and you know there are reports of people who have died after the Moderna shot too.
Oh.
Yeah, I hear those
Yeah, I've
things,
heard
you know,
those.
popping up on online threads and everything. I couldn't really tell how much is actually true or not. Like that, my source of information is like online news, pretty much.
Yeah, I try to
And
avoid that.
so like, so about
Honestly-
Japan, like I follow news in Japan, you know, online because like I don't live there and I'm just like really curious about what's really happening, you know,
my
what the people.
husband is a barber, and his customer base is very wide. So he has doctors and people who work at the our prefecture's medical research center, and he has you know a lot of different kind of people. But one of his customers did die from the Moderna shot.
Mhm.
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there.
I
So
get
it
it.
is. It's frightening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's shift us back to the art conversation.
Yeah.
And get us off this. We're gonna spiral
One
into
more
a.
thing I'll say
Yeah.
about Japan: everybody wears masks.
That's
There's
what I was
no-
going to ask you. I said the one thing I remember my friend when he was visiting there, he said everybody here's this is before the pandemic. He was like a lot of people here just are masked up, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
man.
were wearing masks beforehand if they were sick or
Mhm.
for the confusion. What is that?
During the bird flu or
pollen.
Oh, Kafunsho, like a
allergy.
pollen allergy. Yeah,
Pollen,
the
okay,
allergy
yeah.
season.
People
I have
wear
pollen
it.
allergies. I actually, you know what? And we've talked about this several times in the Rusty crew. Like, I was like, I got no problems when winter comes and it's flu season. I'm just going to wear a mask. And if anyone's got a problem with that, they can, you know, because I haven't gotten sick. I haven't gotten a cold and I can't remember, you know.
I've been telling people, you know, in Japan, girls wear masks during winter because, like, you know, it's half of it is laziness. You know, so
Yeah.
you don't have to wear makeup, so you kind of look okay.
Before the pandemic, I have trouble getting my students to take off their mask because when they present in English, when they do a presentation in English, you know, you can't really hear them with masks. It's unprofessional to wear a mask while you're doing a speech. I had so much trouble getting some
They're probably
students
like,
to take off their mask.
it's probably like what Reiko said. They're probably like, I didn't put any makeup on today.
Yeah, someone like they're embarrassed about their face. They think they're ugly. It's so a lot of girls will wear masks, and some men and some boys.
Oh, interesting. I mean, like, I was just telling to my husband the other day, like, I will keep my mask during winter and even after the pandemic is over because it's kind of warm and it's nice and, you know, I like covering my face
when you wear a mask in the winter. I never wore a mask. I honestly I'm not into masks. I don't like wearing them. And I never wore a mask before the pandemic. Now I wear them every day.
Yeah, I mean, none of us, like, you know, like the first couple months, I was like, okay, I got to get us off this topic.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. I was going to ask you, so you mentioned in the beginning, Hope, about, so you're doing gallery work here in the States now, and you while you're living there. And does it go I mean, so in the case of Reiko, have you tried doing any gallery work in Japan while living here? Like you mentioned
Japan, no, not at all. Like I didn't even think about it actually until now.
Well, there you go.
I have worked with a Japanese client, you know, there's a time back in 2014, I think 13 to 14, I was briefly living in Tokyo to do some local work, and I moved back to States after that. It was only like, you know, a couple months, but it was long enough to have some connections with some people, and I was getting some video game, mobile game, card art job. And
yeah, I remember
so I was doing
you
that
mentioned doing a
for
lot of video game stuff on a call once. You're not doing that anymore?
Video game, like a concept art stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am working sort of like on and off just because I had to take some maternity leave last year, but I'm working with a local game studio
cool.
and doing concept art and some asset making. So yeah.
That's cool.
And then Hope, I was asking you that because you mentioned it's hard to sell stuff in the galleries there, so I assume that's why you're. Do you have to ship your paintings here?
Yeah, I was actually curious. Like,
Do I have to what?
Ship your paintings overseas to the States?
Yeah.
That sounds
Oh
expensive.
man, that's so expensive.
I was gonna say, I feel like didn't you? I think you mentioned.
Cheap.
Yeah, you mentioned in one Discord chat or another that I think that we're part of that you spent like I think $200 or something to ship something once, or is something it was something astronomical where it's like, oh my god, that's exceedingly high.
My recent solo show, I shipped 8 paintings. So it was 2 boxes, and that was $500.
Wow,
and that was cheap.
That's insured.
Yeah, insured.
Man,
where's that show at? Is that what state is that in?
New York.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I mean, that's.
Have you noticed like much difference with the American buying crowd versus like the Japanese buying crowd, or have you not like had too much data to really like compare and contrast yet?
I haven't really had too much data yet.
Okay.
I have sold pretty well with Haven until my solo show, which was sold okay, but not that much. Not as much as I had hoped, but that's okay. It was my first solo show in America, so it was kind of expected. So yeah, it's just not, I don't know. But Everyday Original, I sold really well, and that was a surprise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be working out for all you. You guys are all in EDO, right? I think all 3 of you guys.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Not me yet. I gotta get those
soon.
I gotta get that traditional stuff done. I'm working on it, man. I'm gonna get it. It's gonna happen.
I was gonna say, Hope. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say congratulations on the beautiful Bizarre show.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah.
Having like huge imposter syndrome about it.
I think that's a good thing to talk about. Actually, I think all of us have that feeling. Like it doesn't go away. It just never, like, I just did these 2 shows and all these people kept stopping by saying all this stuff about the work, and the whole time I was like, on the outside I was like, thank you, I appreciate it, thank you. On the inside I'm like, this is too much, man. Like at some point they're gonna, like, I'm in Scott's smart art school class, and then I was talking about my process a little bit last night because I do a lot of photo bashing, and I obviously use tons of reference for landscapes, and but I took the class on purpose because I wanted to learn how to draw more characters. So I kind of showed him a little bit of my character process where I like kind of make the shapes and I do silhouettes, and actually I had Andrew help me build a 3D model last night.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because I was just like, I couldn't, I was trying to explain in class how I like try to find all these reference photos of muscle dudes to build this character I want to work on, and nothing had the angle I wanted. And in the back of my head, when I always think reference and photo bashing, and I think people hear those 2 words and they're like, oh, this dude's cheating, and that stays in my head. And then people who are talking about my work at the shows were like, oh, you have this cool, I love your use of colors. And I'm just like, sometimes I'm just like, I really don't know colors as well as you guys think I do. I know which colors work well together to a degree because I have a graphic design background, but I definitely have to always research things to like, I'm thinking all these things in my head, like I consistently have to look up the colors to be like, do these colors work? Yeah, they do. Because that's just, I don't know if that's part of imposter syndrome or just feeling like a schlub, but
it probably contributes to it because I mean, like all the little things like that eventually adds up, and you're like, no, like real artists don't do this kind of thing, even though like a lot of them do.
I feel like if you're not thinking that way, it's bad.
I think with the reference thing, I don't see that as a problem anymore. I hear enough people say that they use reference.
Yeah.
That it's
now.
It just doesn't seem there's much of a stigma, though. I do hear that younger artists still get that under their skin or something, or they hear about it. Their reference is not.
It's like a rite of passage. I feel like for younger artists, or like artists that are just more starting out than people that have actually had a few years of experience.
I mean, I remember when I was starting out, people were like giving me all sorts of shit about reference, and I was just like, and I fell for it. You know, in my head, I was like, yeah, you're right. And then later, I was like, no, man, this is totally beneficial. Like,
I think my attitude to reference, I never gotten that. I never got shit about using reference. I never had people tell me to not use it. So,
lucky.
and the way I use reference, I download a lot of different images and then just mash them together in my head.
I mean, think about it. Yeah, then that's not about it. I mean, I call it a Frankenstein process where, so like for this character I was working on, he's like got this pose where he's kind of standing there with a sword behind his back. Like I looked up one arm that I really liked. I cut that out of the picture. I looked up another arm that I like cut, and I kind of made this Frankenstein looking character. So at the end of the day, I'm drawing it later. I'm not going to use that. It's like garbage.
Yeah. And that's what they do. And the only thing that you just need to be careful about is lighting. But you're not stealing the image. You're just using one part. Like I use backgrounds of images in my work. It's like, oh, I really like how this mountain looks, so I'm going to take that mountain. I'm going to put this tree from over here into there and stuff like that. It's really hard not to do images without reference.
I mean, also we have the privilege of searching the internet, right? Like I understand some of these older artists, like when they were probably starting out, they did not have
but that's not true. Reference. What older artists did, they collected magazines.
Yeah.
What?
They collected magazines. That's how they looked it up.
True.
There's a lot of people I know that not a lot of people. One of the illustrators I know, he has a stack of magazines where he categorized where things were, like this magazine. This has pictures, or they cut it out. This is a wolf picture. This is a cat picture. These are landscape pictures and stuff like that. So like they collected magazines back in the day, or books.
Oh god, picture books I've got. Internet is like I got folders full of images. But I do a lot of, for my landscapes, I do tend to walk around, take photos of my own for stuff like I've been world building under learning some world building under Andrew Murray. So when I do that, I got over the last 2 years, I've gotten into the habit of like, I was saying this on an interview with Origins a couple days ago. I've gotten into the habit of seeing weird shapes in things, and it's hard to explain because I obviously you guys see my works. I do everything in like random ass shapes. So I'll see things, and I'll be like, that could be part of a ship, and I'll just take a photo of it, and it's like literally like a pipe sticking out of the ground. Like I was talking about the ship I did for my homeworld piece, which is basically got parts of it. I took apart a toaster, and there's parts of a toaster in there, which nobody gives a fuck. But I think it would be kind of cool. I think it's kind of neat that I started seeing things differently because I went on a walkabout with him once, and he was just like, that is this. And he's like, look around, and you'll see all sorts of random things that can use in your paintings. And he's like, whether you use it or not, take a photograph of it because you never know.
I do that too. The smartphones are a great invention for artists because it's
I agree 100%.
So many photos. Like most of I do not have photos of people on my phone. It's mostly
people is the one thing I don't really have. It's a lot of photos of my kid, and then a lot of things where if anyone were to look at my phone and be like, baby, weird stuff, building, car, what,
mine's like a baby, my selfie making faces and hands, my hands, and then baby takes over the phone because she likes playing with my phone. This baby's selfie, random selfie everywhere.
I know for a fact on my phone there's one string on the camera roll where it's like several photos of my daughter and my wife. Some of just my daughter. There's one photo of, I want to say it's a statue or a crypt of a Catholic saint, but it's basically it's only the skull of the saint, and it's enshrined in this like crazy golden armor that is like a concept artist like wet dream. And then right after that, there's more photos of the baby. And if you're through, you'd be like, what the fuck is that?
I had, because I always get a kick out of it when people start scrolling through my phone. I'm like, you're gonna see some weird stuff in there, man. Because when I also I'll see stuff on like Twitter or Instagram, and I'll get like a piece of an idea. Like I also love good composition. So if I see a painting that's got a good composition, I'll be like, I kind of want to do a painting with this composition in my world.
I do that too.
So
I
I'll
have
save
a lot
it.
of art in my too.
And like, because I had people who were like, hey, this piece reminds me of this. I'm like, yeah, it does, because I used the composition from that. Because I really like
Yeah, how much do you all feel that I gotta make sure I'm phrasing it right? Like when you're using reference, how much do you all figure is, say, using it in the now? Like when you're making a painting, you have like the reference right there, and you're like, this is the exact thing I'm taking it, versus here's a mood board of all the things I like of this, that this thing kind of represents, versus this is actually how I started using reference, because I came from a comics background, which time constraints are not kind to that, where you need a reference on it. So you end up learning instead to, your reference is basically you're looking constantly at stuff and kind of just recording it either through studies or photos, and you end up building like a visual library in your head, and you're like, right, I got this for like 80 to 90% of it, and if I really need to, I can kind of look up the reference as a last minute thing just to give it that final oomph. But otherwise, most of it I'm just going to shoot from the seat of my pants.
So for me, it's a little bit of two of those things. The one with building a mental image of a lot of the things that I look at a lot of images and try to think, and having the handoff reference there for specific things that I need to have them. I don't Frankenstein things in Photoshop. I just have pictures to represent a few parts of my painting. But yeah, mood boards are so cool, and I wish I could had the patience to make them, but I do not. I'm not that organized.
It's funny because like
time
illustration, like illustration work, I tend to not do them a whole lot, but whenever I'm doing sculpting stuff, I usually have like a mood board like that, where it's like all my reference laid out, because you're usually like kind of pulling from a bunch of different sources to make like certain things or whatever. Like, there's not like dinosaur skin readily available, so you're like, okay, gonna look at this iguana, this Gila monster, this bird, this fossilized impression, this thing, that thing, whatever.
Yeah, I wish I was that organized. I know it'll probably make my life easier, just have all the images in one, be able to see them like all together. But no, all my images are like separate, and I just scroll through my iPad. It's like, okay, I need this. Okay, I need that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that, especially for digital work. I just kind of go back and forth between painting and go Google search some images.
Yeah,
Like,
do that. Okay.
yeah, the thumbnail sketching is pretty much like I started out just like, out for my head, and the references are usually for final, trying to bring up the quality level, especially for rendering, and also for figures, once thumbnail is nailed, then I will both use 3D and actual real life photo to figure out the anatomy right and gesture right. So yeah, I guess I usually start. I don't really use inspirational mood board that much, I guess. It's more like it's just really for a specific part of the specific, photo or whatever the reference for, very like tiny.
Just to add the little extra of the realism to it.
I need the lighting reference to understand and execute better, so I grab this like, sometimes I grab other people's work and try to study how they executed it and try to understand the brushstrokes and how to make it work in my work,
Or color pad. I have
the colors.
Yeah.
It's more like analyzing and studying how they did it so that I can actually do the similar effect, but not like, literally just like doing the same thing,
So I guess I don't do a mood board, but I throw everything into a folder. So if I'm looking for like trees, for example, but I try to only limit it to like 20 images, because you can search for trees forever, right? Or whatever.
Like, you can get lost in the weeds.
The spaceship I did, I just did a search on spaceships, and I found like, obviously I had a couple Star Wars ships in there in my head to get like the shape language. But like, then like, I do that for every step of the painting. Like I have a specific folder for every object, I guess, that's in there. So like mountains, and then ships, and then like I think the last piece had a little dude in a cloak that I still have to clean up, and then colors. And the color folder is literally 20 images I found where I thought the colors were amazing, and then I try to like use that color palette from, but I try not to I've been trying to bring that number down to 10, because in my head I was like, that's more than enough. 20 feels like too many images sometimes, because then you're like, I want to use this piece from here, this idea from here looks cool, and then like I was showing Andrew the spaceship I made from the Super R type, and then I ended up adding all these extra parts to it, and then I maybe overworked it too much, but there's nothing to do about it now. I'm not going back to that piece ever again. Like, I have to move on.
I have a bad
habit.
It's fucking done.
Yeah, exactly. I have a bad habit of like even when I was working Gen Con last week, I was staring at my wall behind me, and I was like, I kind of want to clean up this piece, and I was literally saying that to a piece that I did like 5 years ago, and Sean was across from me. I could hear his voice in my head, like, stop reworking your pieces. So I was like, got it, but yeah, a mood board would be great if I had the time. I think the last time I did a mood board was for my book, because I had to help the designer look stuff up. So I designed, I was like, here's kind of the aesthetic.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's probably helpful when you're working with somebody.
Designing a book is
that reminds
really
me,
hard.
if it's a teamwork, like, if I'm working for video game stuff that, we need to share ideas, like, we definitely start from inspiration. First couple of days for concepting is usually just like Google searching images or studying specific subjects and book, and we share our search results, and usually art director decides like, this picture feels like what we are looking for. Let's expand more from this picture, and that's kind of like how we start brainstorming ideas based on my experiences, in the past game studios. I don't know how it works for other, industries, but
I've never
swimming's
had
probably
to.
similar.
Yeah, work for a game studio.
We do mood boards occasionally. Like, I work in apparel graphics right now as my main job, but yeah, we do mood boards for a lot of our stuff, and usually it kind of just ends up being like various inspirations of like what other clothing lines are doing and stuff, to be like, this is the trending thing, this is the kind of colors that are trending, the sort of designs, the certain cuts of like clothes and whatever. Like, these are things just to kind of keep in mind for like the next handful of things, because most of the clients we deal with, they're not the trendsetters. They're the people that are like, oh no, we want to do the thing that looks fashionable to everybody else. We're now catching up to it like 2 years later and taking to it now when it's like actually palatable for most people at that point. Something I was curious about when I was thinking about the reference thing, I've started to do this a little bit more when it comes to personal work. I used to not do this at all, and I started to do it more because it's kind of helped me a little bit. But when you're developing your art, like personal artwork, I suppose is probably the best thing for this, or even like Hope Your Gallery work. Do you guys ever approach it from like word lists or like more written aspects to figure out the themes and whatever that you want in your illustrations before you actually start thumbnailing? Or because I used to be like, no, I would just thumbnail and be like, oh, that's a neat idea. That's a neat idea. And then I would kind of work it from there. And I started to do more written stuff just to kind of, I guess, think more about like what sort of things are going into the paintings versus just flying by the seat of my pants on it.
For me, it can be both. I get a lot of ideas come to me at once. Like I run a lot. I run a few times a week, and I get ideas while I'm running. So I write them down like in a couple of words, just as a reminder. I don't like come up with like poems or writing
or like word association kind of things or whatever.
Kind of thing, just weird word, and I'll write it down somewhere. And then sometimes when I just have an image can't really describe what's going on, I'll write down. I'll do a little small thumbnail, and then maybe I'll write little notes beside the thumbnail just to remind me later to work on it. And sometimes I just don't do either and just keep it in my head to work it out in my head.
Oh, I always feel like that's dangerous for me.
That's
'cause, like,
I was gonna say,
I'll
that's
have
a
it and
dangerous way to
then-
do it.
Yeah.
It is dangerous, and I have lost really good ideas because
Yep.
I would sit down and think want to write one down, and it's like, oh man, I had this really good idea for this painting. What was it?
Yep.
It has happened to me too.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it happens a couple of times. Sometimes I work things out in my head, and it's just like I keep working it out in my head, and it works out. It comes
I
out
word
somehow.
map. I guess it's called mind mapping or word mapping. I forgot.
Yeah,
who
there's
taught,
there's a bunch of different words for it.
I forgot who
kind
taught
of.
me that trick, but I literally will make like the center. It's very quick and dirty. It's like the center is the name of the character or piece.
Yeah.
Kind of a general idea,
Mhm.
and then around it I draw out. I think it was in my marketing class. You just on the outside I just draw out a bunch of like words like here's an example of this. I'm working on this tiger. He's like a tiger god. So I just wrote down words around it like tiger head, big chest, beard, paws, giant sword, beard. Beard is throwing me off because I don't know how the hell a tiger's gonna have a beard yet. So I was just like, fuck it.
Just
I'm gonna
more fur, man.
just more fur, I guess, right? So, but what I'll add to this as I start working more is more words, and then what I tend to do is eliminate the ones that don't really like like a tiger head. He's a
Yeah.
tiger god. That's no shit, like tiger head, So those kind of.
Yeah.
But I write everything down because it helps me a little bit to like when I'm researching, but I can't remember the rest of that
No.
lesson.
Mapping it out with the circle thing, that's a very common thing that I hear. But my mind just likes chaos, and
Yeah.
I can never be that organized.
I mean,
It
I
took
think we
me a
all like to
long
wing
while
it.
to figure out. Yeah, it took me a long while to figure out how that works. Like I first heard about it from I took like a online class with Sterling Hunley, and he's
I did
very
that.
much into that.
I
Oh, did
think
you
it
do
was
it
his
too at
class,
the
the
same time?
ideation stuff. I'm pretty sure this is what I learned from
Yeah.
the ideation stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, like I heard it from him first, and I was like, okay, let me try this. And I was like, I don't know
It's
what the
wild.
fuck I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I stopped for years to like never do it, and then eventually I saw someone else do it. And you know how it is like with learning, like just sometimes someone might show you a different way to do it, and
Yep.
you're like, oh, now I understand it.
So I just don't do the last part of his thing, I guess. But like the other thing I find that really works is once you create that mind map, and in my case, since I'm writing the series too, I've been writing just like a short paragraph, like just I call them like intro stories to the piece, which I use in the artwork itself. And if I just put it down in writing, I kind of have an idea of like what I'm trying to paint. So like
Right.
each and that piece becomes the back of like when I have the artwork for sale in print form, it shows there's writing on the back of each piece, and it's literally what I came up with. It doesn't necessarily mean it's what's going in the book, but it's like the idea that helped create the piece, if that makes sense. So
Right.
Wow.
Reiko, do you do any of this, or like have you never messed with like word association or anything like that before?
Definitely words or sometimes phrase. I guess a lot of my personal works, inspirations are not all of them, but like at least some of them are from actually some songs and
Right.
lyrics. But it's my work is it's all about emotional tones. So like if I have this song that feels appropriate for the, or if I guess I get inspired by, specific phrase or songs, and I will sometimes write it down just to remember the phrase. And or just like listening to the song kind of brings me some images that I want to draw. So
That's
for
a really
that
good way
purpose,
to do it.
So like even some of the my personal series actually has the phrase like directly associated with it. In my prints that I saw in the con, I usually have the back side of my print has a little like sentences to describe what the piece is about or indicate what it is about, and some of them actually have lyrics from the very specific song that inspired it. So
I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
That's what sometimes that I do with my work, is just when I put it up, just have a simple phrase to evoke certain feelings. I don't want to go into too detailed explaining about my work, but there's so many people, especially in Japan, they want to know everything.
Yeah.
about my work.
Oh yeah.
So in art fairs, they will ask you about a bunch of questions. Why this is this and why that is that. I was like, and I just make stuff up just to keep them happy.
You purposely have told them random stories, so everyone's walking around telling your stories, and she's like, what's his name? Damn, I can't remember that character. Like, she's like Kaiser Sose. Like, nobody really knows who she really is.
I would make some, and it would be at a certain time in the art fair. Like, somebody will ask a question, and then, or they want to know more about the painting, and then I'll make something up from then, and then I might change it a couple of times with different people, but usually it stays the same. But if it's another art fair or it's another place there, I have to explain the work, then it will change.
Dude,
because I can't remember.
You know what would be amazing is if someone you already spoke to meets you again and you say this different story and they're totally about what you said. We're a little bit over time. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we call it? Is there anything super important or amazing you want to tell us about Japan? Oh, I mean, you obviously live there. Do you build? Oh, I got a question for you. Do you build Gundams? No.
Gundams are popular.
I was telling Andrew if I ever travel to Japan, I'm gonna have one suitcase that's empty just for Gundams.
You're gonna have
What's that?
There is a huge Gundam in Tokyo.
Yeah, somebody I met at Dragon Con said that that's the stuff their main like store or factory. Is that true?
Yeah.
I don't know.
She said something about. She told me to visit there, make sure you go on the tour. They show you how the parts are made, and then there was a whole other area where they show how they paint them and stuff. And I was just like,
I didn't get to see the factory, but when we went there for our honeymoon, we went to, I think it's like their largest store in Tokyo Bay.
Okay.
For Gunpla.
I want to go there so bad.
It was crazy. They had basically every single model kit from every single year. Like I was able to grab, like I almost got like one of the ones from like 1979.
I would, yes.
Wow, that must be pretty expensive.
I think if Andrew and I ever take a trip to Japan, you guys would not hear from us for a whole day.
It's just it'll just be
just be there shopping for Gundams all day.
Yeah. Bring like a backpack for clothes and suitcases for Gundams.
I will say this about Japan. There's a lot of great things and very interesting things to see in Japan other than touristy spots.
Sure. I mean, I had a friend who
make a really good trip not seeing Kyoto, not going to Tokyo or Osaka.
Hey, you gotta go like those secret spots. Well, we'll bother you when we get there, and you can just set aside one day for the Gundam shop too. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But yeah, like I had a friend who like had a connection through another friend at an airline, and he would just travel randomly to countries on the weekend. Like he would leave on a Thursday and come back on like Sunday. And he did this wild trip to Japan. Yeah, he's like messaged me on like Wednesday saying, I'm gonna go to Japan tomorrow. I'm like, for how long? He's like, I don't know, I'll be back Sunday. I was like, what? And he like flew over there. He stayed in like a hostel that had like the pods, you know, where you climb into them. And,
one of the small ones.
Yeah, he just stayed in one of those. He's like, he barely slept. He's like, he just kind of enjoyed, and he did exactly what you're saying. Hope he went to all these like little rural spots that people told him to visit. He didn't go to like the touristy places, and he came back on Sunday or Monday whenever he got back. But he was like, I can't believe he did it. And he did the same thing. He went to Europe, I think, once, and I was just like,
was he flying out of Chicago?
Yeah, he did live here in Chicago. So
that's because what is that? That's like a 17-hour flight.
Like that. So his friend worked for, I think it was American Airlines, maybe, I forget, but he would just fly using his friends and family pass, and then he was there for X, and they came. But he stayed in. He sounded like, I don't think I would do it this way. I would want to relax and enjoy my trip, you know. But,
yeah, it's pretty brutal. Like, you know, the jet lag and all that stuff.
Yeah, he seemed
you want
okay.
To have at least a week.
I was like, knock yourself out, man.
Wow.
But he's a cool dude. He's helped me out in a pinch when I needed help at a show. He just would fly in. So I was like, let's go.
Well, I do miss hot spring and good soba noodles. Those two things are
What's
not
hot spring?
So hot springs are great, and foreigners there's two types of people who would never go to hot springs because they think it's unsanitary or they don't want to get naked in front of people. And that's a very, very huge shame. Like, I've had people tell me that they think it's unsanitary. It's like, no, you just don't know. You just will never know the great thing about hot springs.
I think I'd be weirded out getting naked in front of a bunch of people I don't know.
You get used to it. I mean, you're artists.
No.
You
It
can figure
doesn't matter.
drawings. You've seen other people be naked.
I don't need everybody seeing my wang just hanging out there while I'm trying to go in a hot spring.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It feels
I
a
mean,
little.
you really don't. Yeah, you're missing out. You'll
sure.
miss out so much.
I'm so
It's
glad
like,
that you like those things.
I will travel to different prefectures to go to hot springs.
Oh man, yeah, that's what my family used to do. Weekend trip, going to Nagano and go hot springs.
I haven't been to Nagano yet, but yeah, I mean, taking a bath in the snow.
Oh,
No, I mean
man.
that sounds interesting.
It's wonderful. It's just, it's a whole different feeling. I can never go back to the States because there's no hot springs.
I know. We used to have some like a hot tub, like
It's
in
not the
city,
same.
but you have to be in there with the swimsuit on, and
It's
you
weird.
actually feel. I know it's
Yeah.
weird. It's just like it's like a warm pool, like hot pool.
We'll have to take your word for it.
I went to Switzerland and everybody had they had swimsuits on for a hot spring, and people were like playing like it was a pool kind of thing, like slides.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, that's so weird. It's like, this is not how you do hot springs.
No.
I'll be honest, when you said hot springs, I thought you were talking about a ramen spot.
No, sorry.
Totally not what I thought it was in my head.
I'm one of the very few people who does not like ramen. I do not like ramen.
Dude, I would eat ramen and sushi all day if you let me. All day.
So you can get ramen. You can get good ramen or even udon noodles here, in the States.
Yeah,
but
true.
no one does soba right, at least for me. It's like no one cares about soba noodles. It's so sad.
Oh, that's a shame. I love soba. Soba is wonderful. Udon is pretty good, but soba is the best. And ramen is crap. I'm sorry.
On that note, this interview is over.
You're my Japanese buddy now, officially.
Yeah.
You guys can go to the hot springs together.
It's a lot of abura, oil, and yucky things. It makes you feel like ick. But soba, when you eat soba, you just feel refreshed and energized. It's a lighter taste. And
I'll have to find some soba noodles out here. All right, well, that was an interesting spin I didn't expect to have. We're
soba noodles.
I mean, I'm gonna have to find some soba. I'm trying to remember if I've ever had soba noodles now. I don't think I have.
You gotta try it in Japan.
Yeah, I will have to. I am planning.
I
am definitely gonna take a trip to Japan once all this stuff settles down a little bit.
Yeah. You can get soba noodles here, like okay ones, or the ones that you can make at home level ones. But the really high quality ones, I've never experienced it other than New York City.
Gotcha. Seth, how you gonna log in at the end, man? My friend Seth just said, "What's up?" So that man, thanks for joining us for the last 2 minutes. I appreciate it. Hope you've been well. Seth is a really good friend. He's helped me out at shows. He's you guys have met him. He's been my assistant at a couple shows, and then he is also the one that helped me set up pretty much all this stuff I've been doing for a while. So
cool.
Fist bump to Seth. He's been doing his own thing. It's awesome. So all right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys being on the show. I know it's super early for Hope, and it's super late for Reiko.
It's not that early.
Oh, okay.
It's not that early. So you're.
Well, I'm glad I was able to get you in on Thursday. Seth, you're on at work. You're gonna get in trouble, man.
Is there anything you guys would like to promote, or?
Yes.
I'll be at ElexCon this year.
Oh, you will?
Yeah.
I'll be there too.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Hang out and try to have a good time.
Yeah.
I don't know if the drink situation is there, but we'll hang.
I'm sorry, LexCon is too far for me to ever attend.
Have you ever been to LexCon?
No, I've been in Japan for 14 years.
Just never traveled out of there, huh? I get it.
Do you know how much it costs to try to travel over there?
I know. Yeah, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I haven't seen my parents for a while. My parents
Right.
still live in Tokyo, so.
You should call your parents.
Ow!
Hope, do you want to promote your do you still have your solo show happening, or is it done?
No, it's ended.
Oh,
But there's
okay.
still available work if you're interested. Contact Haven.
There you
Haven
go,
Gallery.
Haven Galleries in New York. Her work's amazing.
Still have a lot of work available from my show, and it's cool work. It's good work.
Yes, definitely is. Thank you guys.
Definitely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will if you guys want to, okay, I'm gonna take us offline real quick, so give me 1 second. Also, a quick note before I take us offline. Saturday's Gen Con wrap up has been moved to Sunday, in case anyone